Young people living in deprived neighborhoods are often stigmatized and excluded from decision-making in their communities. I recently finished a research project on urban regeneration in social housing in London. And I found that even though regeneration may improve neighborhood quality, young people are not able to benefit from such improvements. And regeneration often reinforces the social injustices affecting young people from lower income and ethnically minoritized backgrounds. Consultations with young people are usually tokenistic and don't really address most of these issues. So young people end up feeling powerless in the face of the changes in their local communities.
I have experience working with international development projects that support children and youth living in contexts of widespread poverty and HIV in East and Central Africa. These projects often promote the idea that with education, young people can choose to have good relationships, viewed as monogamous, based on trust, open communication, and equality. But I found that many young people don't see this idea of relationships as a realistic choice in their lives, and instead see them as a Western thing. So they feel excluded, have lower self-esteem, and disengaged from support services, all because these services don't fully recognise the realities of young people's lives and how widespread poverty limits people's choices.
I've also seen this play out in relation to the ways that we prevent child marriage around the world. And while the increased global movement to end child marriage is important, the risk is that solutions become really top-down, that end up excluding girls who are often portrayed as voiceless, vulnerable victims, rather than critical partners and agents of change. And so a consistent message from my research on child marriage amongst crisis-affected populations has been the need to include girls, not just in implementing activities, but also in designing the work that we do to prevent child marriage, so that this work better reflects their context and their experiences. And we've tried to convey this through a poster designed with girls in the Middle East that aims to amplify their voices and experiences, essentially arguing that if we don't listen to them, our activities and our plans to end child marriage just won't work very well.
Stories are a powerful tool in research with young people because you can project your thoughts, feelings, and actions onto a fictional character instead of having to expose yourself, which is especially important when talking about things like feeling excluded or shame about not being able to simply choose a so-called better life. We've recently co-produced a comic with young people in Tanzania and the UK to open up conversations on these issues, but also to imagine alternative ways of being and communicating about these struggles.
Young people should be considered partners in their communities with a stake and unique perspective in addressing local problems. It's also very important to protect youth spaces as neighborhoods undergo regeneration, to protect young people's right to play and socialize safely. Decision makers such as property developers, planning authorities, and housing landlords need to invest time and resources to build trusted relationships with young people in their communities and involve them in more meaningful ways. That is key to making regeneration policy more youth inclusive.